Well, hello friends. Welcome back to Commute Talk. Today, I'd like to talk about rage quitting, because yesterday I rage quit in a video I was making, and I ended up not finishing the video, but I thought I could talk about it. So, I was trying to make a traceroute command, and if you're not familiar, traceroute is kind of similar to ping in that you're sending out these ICMP echo requests to the target host, but the difference between traceroute and ping is that you start out with a TTL value of 1 instead of a high TTL value, because the TTL value in the internet protocol determines how many router hops you can take before reaching the destination. So if you set a TTL of 1, that means that you're only allowed to make one router hop. So what happens is that for every time that you visit a router, or your packet visits a router along the way, that router will decrement your TTL by 1 and pass the packet on. That's my understanding of it anyways. And so traceroute is implemented by setting a TTL of 1, sending out an echo request, and then you get a response from the first hop on the way to the destination that says like, oh, well, I couldn't continue with this packet because the TTL reached 0. And then you increment the TTL to 2, to 3, to 4, and so on. And every time that you do that, you'll get an error message from one router like further along the route. You know what I mean? Anyways, so I was trying to implement that yesterday, and I had all the code in the Serenity kernel written to allow changing the TTL with a call to set sockopt on an IPv4 socket, and it was, that was working well and everything. But I ran into this problem that I'm always testing with QEMU, right? And ICMP stuff on Linux, at least, uses raw sockets, which are privileged, which means that only root can use them. And so it's a little bit murky, like what's possible and what's not when you're running QEMU as a user. So there's this mechanism where you can use the Linux proc file system to say that my GID, like my group ID, is allowed to send ping packets. So I enable that, and that makes ping work, because it means that echo requests can go out and come in even though I'm a user, non-super user process. But I kept having this problem that I was looking at my traceroute packets going out in TCP dump, and in my internal virtual machine interface, they all had this correct TTL values, like that was starting at 1 and then going up 2, 3, 4, and so on. But when I captured the packets on my like host machine's physical interface, then they all had TTL 64. So it turned out that the user space networking backend in QEMU was just taking these ICMP packets from the guest operating system, so from Serenity, and basically just ignoring the TTL part of the IPv4 header and just putting 64 there instead, or I guess whatever the default TTL of the host socket was. So I managed to figure this out, and I was like, at this point I was, I think, maybe 50 minutes or 1 hour into the video already, and like half of it was me trying to figure out what was going on in QEMU, because I'm not very familiar with QEMU at all, so I had to work out how that worked. And then I managed to get it to override the TTL on the outgoing packets, but then it would no longer. So I could see that it's setting the right TTL when I do TCP dump on my physical interface, right? But now I can see the correct responses are coming in too. I get like ICMP TTL ran out or whatever it says. Time to live expired. I don't remember exactly what it says, but I got the right error messages that would allow me to implement traceroute. But now these packets were not going into my guest in QEMU, and I stared at the code, and I just couldn't work out how to make it capture those error packets and make them go into the guest machine, guest OS. And I got so frustrated that I just rage quit. And I still don't know. Still don't know what the solution is, or why I can't get the packets back in. But now that I think about it, and I'm not as frustrated, I think maybe the issue is that when I do this thing to selectively enable ping for my group ID, maybe that only allows echo request and echo response ICMP packets, but maybe it doesn't pair the TTL expired and send those to the user space, to the user program as well. I'm not sure, but this I don't know. I don't know why I wanted to talk about this today. I guess I'm just thinking about it now after I had breakfast and tea. That I guess I wanted to mention that this is something that happens sometimes, that I'm trying to record something and make like an interesting video out of it, and then I just run into some wall, and I sort of lose faith in myself, and I start to think that, well, this video cannot possibly be entertaining anymore, because now I'm just banging my head against the keyboard, trying to get QEMU to do this thing, and maybe that sort of thing would be interesting, actually. Like, it's just in the moment, it just seems like, oh god, this is so boring, like, who would ever watch this? So that happens sometimes, you know. I don't want to give the impression that I never get stuck, or that I don't have trouble, especially in unfamiliar code bases. Like, I certainly do. And this whole thing made me wonder if maybe I'm doing people a disservice by not showing more of that. I don't know. I don't know if that would be interesting to watch. What do you think? I don't know. I mean, I'm still figuring this whole thing out, right? Like, I don't actually know what makes my content interesting or entertaining or relevant to anyone, because it's not like I'm working on some technology that you're using, and you're I mean, I'm not like using some library that benefits you from learning about, and I guess the language, I guess, but I don't know what makes it interesting, and where the boundaries of that being interesting are. Like, what else could be incorporated while still being interesting? It's probably something that I have to experiment with a little bit. And now that I say that, I'm quite sad that I stopped recording, because it would be nice to be able to show this footage, I guess. Anyways, that's just something I was thinking about today. A little bit different from the usual commute talks. Yeah. So I guess thanks for listening to that, and thanks for hanging out with me on the commute. And I guess I'll see you next time. Have a great day. Bye.